Su Qing's novel Beauty on the Crossroad original text 7. During the reunion the year my sister graduated from junior high school, there was a concert in the school. And the program included drama, dance, magic, etc. Ming and the others first decided to play The Peacock Flies Southeast, with Ming playing the role of Lanzi. Cheng also played a not very important role in it, but asked him to be the affairs director because his father could help him borrow a lot of money. The student group had no money for the clothes and props used on the stage. And not only did the business people not get extra money, but they also had to pay for transportation, etc. So everyone asked Huang Cheng, a young banker, to take charge of it. Cheng was happy to obey. Even Mr. Mingjai felt very happy. His son could be the director of affairs, and he should naturally be as beautiful as he could be. Therefore, he lent them all his robes, mandarins, melon skin caps, etc. Although he knew that these young people were very careless and easy to take advantage of. Things get dirty, but he doesn't regret it. His son is the real priceless treasure, as long as he can succeed, as long as he attracts attention, as long as he can win glory for the Huang family ancestors in the future. He is willing to spend any price. The party started with the principal giving a speech and reporting on the school situation. Of course, the audience was not very interested. My mother and I also went to see it that day. Because we went early, we sat in the front row. It's so easy to look forward to the performance of The Peacock Flies Southeast. I really didn't expect my sister to be so sad and touching. She was oppressed by her evil mother-in-law, and her husband was unable to help her due to the old ethical concepts. He did not dare to bear the reputation of being unfilial for her, although he also knew that his mother's actions were unreasonable. He could not think of resisting, and in the end he divorced her as a victim. I couldn't bear to listen to her sad farewell. When I first came here, my sister-in-law could hold the bed and walk away. Now I'm going to see that my sister-in-law has grown as tall as me. Her youth was here. I cut off 5 horses in 3 days. My lord, it is too late. He died in vain due to his hard work and futile efforts. After returning home, her mother also made it impossible for her to settle down. Her brother forced her to marry the prince's son and used her as a tool to curry favor with her boss. In the end, she died, earning the bitter tears of countless viewers. My mother and I couldn't help crying either. At this time, a businessman in his 40s or 50s from Cheng came over and said, "This is my father." My mother hurriedly wiped away her tears in embarrassment and asked me to call Mr. Mingjai old man, which I did. The voice was still a little choked. Mr. Mingjai said, "The eldest lady's play was really well done. Such a virtuous woman is really rare." I don't know if he was praising my sister for being virtuous in person, still praising the virtuous character of her character Lanzi, Cheng said with a smile. "She is a top student in our first class, with excellent morals and learning." Naturally, my mother also said a few polite words to them. From now on it will be Miss Q Lian who was beside and dance. She had a lot of silver threads wrapped around her head and was wearing a pink dance shirt. She was spinning round, and I didn't know what it was all about. She has a round face. Her complexion is not very white, but her eyes are moving, trying to enchant people's soul. Mr. Mingjai looked at it and shook his head and said, "How can such a monster-like female student be allowed to be embarrassed on stage?" Cheng hurriedly defended her. "This is the dance of the sea god, the goddess of the sea." Mr. Mingjai sneered. "What goddess of the sea? She is simply a monster, a river clam spirit." Cheng did not dare to say more, so he had to laugh. I said, "Mom, let's go backstage to see my sister." Cheng smiled and said, "No need to go. I was in the dressing room just now and saw your sister coming down." She was sobbing to herself, and everyone moved forward in a hurry. She celebrated her success, and your sister was even more moved and burst into tears. I finally coaxed her to turn her sadness into joy. She thought she had finished taking off her makeup, and she had other things to do, so we didn't need to disturb her. Mother, Saikyang also said, "Yes, it's important to let her do her job well." Then he said, "Xiao Mei, don't talk too much. We have to perform magic on the stage." So Cheng also ran in to take care of everything. Mingjai didn't want to go back yet, so he squeezed in and sat next to us. He kept praising his sister, saying that she was such a virtuous woman and he would be very happy to have her as his wife. He also said that she was knowledgeable and could help her husband succeed in his career and teach his son. Her son will definitely be even more amazing in the future. The mother seemed embarrassed after hearing this and was not very polite, so she could only smile and say she is only 15 years old this year. Although she can graduate from junior high school, girls are useless in the family. Mr. Mingjai thought for a moment and wanted to say something. After a pause, she finally said softly, 2 years younger than our Chang. Chang entered school late because he studied ancient books in a store for several years, and he happened to be in the same grade as her. The mother had nothing to say. Finally, my sister came to us with a big smile on her face. When she saw Mr. Mingjai, she respectfully called out, "Old man." She had been to Huang's house, so she had known this old man for a long time. Mr. Mingjai was very happy. She said that she was really virtuous, and such a good person. Daughters are rare in the world now. He said, "This world, alas, is all ruined by the new school. Old school families like ours are not good either. I believe that women should be educated, but the old morals must not be forgotten. The most important thing is to care for your husband and educate your children. The director of general affairs here is a good friend of mine. When will I tell him in detail that it is very important for female students to teach them how to take care of their husbands and raise their children?" I felt very anxious after hearing this. I was afraid that he would do it again in front of my sister. He said that he would be the happiest wife to marry her, and that he would definitely be able to raise a good son. Fortunately, my sister had not expected this yet. She just listened with a smile. When she heard his few words praising her virtuousness, her face felt a little. She looked shy, lowered her head and smiled modestly. She was wearing a light blue cloth school uniform and the black silk skirt. She was as thin as an autumn chrysanthemum, an indescribable noble beauty. Soon Chang also followed. He was wearing a plaid suit and floral tie. He was the only one in the school who often refused to wear school uniforms. His complexion is fair and his features are delicate. In terms of appearance, he is a handsome young man in troubled times. Mr. Mingjai said to him, "Why, Chang, you are here too. You are the director of affairs today." Then he said, "Look at the things I borrowed for you. Okay, I use my brains. Teachers see, are you satisfied?" Chang pouted and said deliberately, "Dad, it's your new melon skin hat. People make fun of me when they see it. They put it on their heads and say, 'Look, your dad is here. Your father is here.'" Mr. Mingjai didn't mind at all. He just said, "Why do you deal with such wicked brats? You have to take advantage of this. Damn it, no one has ever taught me a lesson. Look how I teach you anytime and anywhere. Alas, it's a pity that the brothers above you are all dead. Otherwise they would have already made their debut, and I could enjoy some of the blessings of being an old man." At this point, he reached out and grabbed his scalp, which was newly shaved, very smooth, with a bluish tint to the scalp. While scratching his scalp, he thought of the melon skin hat again, and said, "That kind of hat is indeed very convenient, and the felt hat seems too formal. I also have a piece of horseradish at home, which I can't bear to use myself. Chang, etc. When you are older, I will buy you a good hat and put that piece of agate in it. It will be very beautiful. How will you look good in this kind of dress?" Chang didn't wait for his father to finish speaking and shouted, "Dad, are you asking me to wear a melon skin hat? I don't want it even if I die. It's so ugly." I thought of the way a handsome boy like Chang told him to wear a melon skin hat, and I couldn't help laughing and stealing glances. When I looked at the others, I saw that my mother and sister were sitting still. They didn't seem to hear these words. No, of course they heard them. They just pretended not to care and just looked up and down the stage quietly. At this time, a very modern female student appeared in the aisle. Her hair was permed and fluffy. Her face was heavily smeared with makeup, and her behavior was flirtatious. I looked at her and she seemed familiar. She asked Chang, and the sister waved her hands repeatedly, asking them to go over and talk. My sister just smiled and nodded, looked back at my mother and me, and shook her head, indicating that she couldn't go there with us. But Chang couldn't bear it any longer, leaving aside the issue of the melon skin hat and not knowing what he said to us. He quickly ran towards the aisle. When they met, Chang said something to her, and she shrugged and laughed, as if she was teasing him, but also trying to disobey him. In the end, the two of them laughed, pushed each other and jumped up and down. Went inside. I found it very unpleasant to look at. So Mr. Mingjai simply closed his eyes and remained silent. After a while, my mother couldn't help but asked her sister in a low voice, "Is this female student also in your class?" My sister nodded and smiled nonchalantly. "Her name is Lianhua. She is the one who danced the Poseidon dance just now." Mr. Mingjai opened his eyes suddenly and spat heavily on the ground. He seemed to hate Lianhua very much in his heart. The mother did not dare to ask any more questions, and only heard Mr. Mingjai say to her, "A woman should look after her husband and teach her children. Don't you think so, Mrs. Zhang?" Alas, I am by no means a stubborn old man, and I very much support women studying. For example, my woman is illiterate and extremely stupid. I get angry when I see her. Women study to be virtuous and to be virtuous. Mrs. Zhang, I hope you can educate her to college. It's better to study obstetrics after graduation, because women raise children and don't have to deal with male patients as an obstetrician. Ms. Zhang, what do you think? Don't you laugh at me for being old. The sister kept smiling, and when she was finally asked, she replied respectfully and gently, "That's what I said. What the old man said is not bad. It's really suitable for women to learn." Wow. As she said this, she said I became embarrassed and felt embarrassed to say the word obstetrics directly. It was getting late and the Sealid was over. From then on, we and the Huang family became close friends. Mr. Mingjai often invites my mother and sister to come with me to his house for festivals or New Year's Eve dinners. My mother naturally refuses most of the time because we are not polite and don't want to bother others. Our family has even less food during festivals because the food on that day is too expensive. My mother said that Hengshen can still eat after the festival, so we have to pay less. However, Mr. Mingshai's kindness is really worthy of gratitude. When he saw that we were unwilling to go, he asked Song Wenxing to send us some food and other things. The things were all useful, such as towels, soap, soy sauce, etc. We asked the servant to send it to us because it would save us money, but my mother refused repeatedly and became even more uneasy. It seemed that he wanted to ask his sister to be his wife, although his mother was unwilling. She seemed unable to refuse.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.